We're on. Okay. So last week we had a great presentation by Javier, and we said that we might do a follow-up session this week on the more practical aspects of the clean code architecture and how it can be applied on our code. But we'll do that probably next week or sometime soon. Right, Javier?
Yeah, so I've been a bit busy with something, so I'll have the presentation ready for next week.
Okay.
And hopefully I can squeeze in some other stuff as well.
Okay, cool. So we'll just do the standard sync, Android sync and update on what's going on in the platform. We'll do that. So who wants to start?
I can start. I only have a small thing.
Okay.
So until now, we could only favorite VOD items. And now we can also favorite every other cell type. That's one. And if you are using the UI builder, you will only show the favorite icon if you have a favorite screen. I mean, if you don't have the favorite screen, it will disappear. And that's it.
All right. Who's next? If no one jumps in, we can update.
I can go if you want, so I don't mind.
Yeah, okay, Javier. Next, we'll go after.
Yeah, so multiple things. I have, I'm working on getting a new application in SAP where we all can use to share even iOS as well as a reference application for family development. I already have it configured and ready. So, I have it configured and like startup and everything. I'm configuring all the views. So the whole idea is that it would actually contain all the different components and all the different cell styles that we actually have for each of the families. And then we will have, it will have different layout depending on the family. So in one single application, you can see all the cell styles for all the different components for a single family. So it's a way for be able to, simplify the development and be able to use one application as a reference, which is not belong to a client, but it actually, is owned by us. So we can, add content if you want, different types of content, different like whatever you want, and we can actually, all of us use this as a reference app for developing families and also for verifying them. So that's one thing. The other that I work, as I said, like on the Circle CI for updating to my plugin to 2.0. I will try to find if there is an easy way to share this. Of course, there's always the option to use Git submodules, but I will try to, if there is any other way to actually do it. If anyone has an idea, let me know. So we can actually share a single Circle CI, for example, for plugins configuration. So we can upload, everything, and we don't have to copy paste through all our plugins, everything. But anyway, the whole idea of this is that it moved the plugin like building and testing using workflows from Circle 2.0 and using Docker image. And so it cut the time for building like by 6 times or 7 times, I can't remember. So it was a huge change. And then also it's pretty good because it also has the different stages. And then later on, if we want it for certain things, we can parallelize things as well. Then the other thing that I need to as well look into the final. I did a work with it, and I just want to do like a final decision regarding what to do is for a Gradle and be able to remove all the bin tray that we have from all the projects, and then just use either a Git submodule or actually use a plugin, a Gradle plugin, our own internal Gradle plugin, where we can use to just execute certain things that certain tasks through Gradle to be able to upload things to bin tray, for example. So we don't have to copy this bin tray code, massively everywhere that we have, and we can have a single entry point for all that. So I'll take a look and I'll see what options do we have as well regarding that. And then from my side, from the SDK, I did a small change. Broadcasters, now it has the image available. So the guys from the backend did a little bit of work. And now, so if you need the broadcasters image, there is actually a way to define it in the CMS, and you can have it from the apps if you require it. And I'm doing a bit of a change with the web views and the JS interface, because it was causing some issues, and it was really restricted the way that you could actually do. So I pushed the PR, and then the guys are taking a look. So be aware of the change as well later on. And I think that's it from my side, pretty much.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a question about the first thing that you said. You're creating some sort of a demo app, if I understand correctly?
Yeah, so I'll try to give you like presentation next week, a proper presentation about everything they're doing that it can be shared among everyone. So it's more than a demo. It's more like, well, it could be used as a demo as well, but it's an application where you can see all the different, sales types for like all the families and everything. So,
yeah,
and all the different components and everything.
Okay, sounds great. Be very helpful for the project managers as well, probably.
Yeah, of course, and also for development. So when you develop the family, you can see, how your like for every single component, you can check, how your component is going to be rendering and everything. So, or how your sales styles are going to be rendered. So,
okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we will go next. So there are a couple of updates and things that we are changing currently. The first is, as you guys know, we're working in coordination and cooperation with developers from ProSieben, who occasionally do some updates on their part of the code. And in one of the recent updates, they kind of updated the values of the minimum, the target SDK and the compile SDK to 26, to the most up to date, which kind of forces us to do the updates on our side, because our apps are not going to be able to comply without it. So specifically, the change was, which components? Oh yeah, the compile and target SDK versions were updated to 26 from 25. And build tools versions, they updated also to 26.0.2. And the support library version was updated to 26.1. It was previously 25.3. So yeah, generally when these updates happen, they should be taken care of by the Zap team. And we also had a talk with Gil about this today, because these updates obviously can have a lot of influence both on the compilation of the apps when you're starting to work on a new SDK, if there are breaking changes, but more importantly on runtime effects when you're changing the target SDK and the influence on devices that are running now Android Oreo. And these kind of changes have to be taken care of very, let's say, carefully. So we've started the process. Instead of just handling it to the Zap team to take care, we are now working together with Gil on updating and doing all the necessary checks on what the update. It might be a very small update that has no influence on us, but since Android Oreo did present some changes to the way apps behave and what the apps can do and restriction on background services and that sort of things, we're kind of checking it now more carefully. So this is a task that now Merav is taking care of, and of course she's updating Gil on the process. That's one. Another thing is that we got a requirement from Yoni Austin to kind of align the way that event names, analytic event names, are sent between iOS and Android. Originally, this came from a feature, the blacklisting feature that they are now trying to introduce on Zap, where you have a list of all the items. Maybe I can share the screen, show it. I can find it quickly. No, I don't have it quickly here. Let's see. Yeah, I have something that Yoni post it on our. No, I don't have the example quickly. Never mind. There is a list of events where you can highlight, where you can check just the events that you want your apps to send or H-Analytics plugin to send. But since some of the events are sent differently from iOS, between iOS and Android, meaning that capitalization is different or something in the event name is not 100% accurate, it came to a situation where the events, some events appear twice, and you have to mark them twice just to be sure that they are not being sent by the analytics provider. So we kind of have to do some alignments, both in the way the blast listing works. So when you add something to a blacklist, you have to make sure that it's not case sensitive and handle it properly. But also alignment in general of the event names between iOS and Android, because we have the full list now of all the events, and there are some kind of misalignment that needs to be addressed. Again, it's a kind of a ticket that was transferred to us by Yoni, and we're now handling it. And also Ran is aware of it. So just the effect on everybody else is just to be aware that if some event names might change, and Yoni obviously knows about it, and he says that in the long term, in the short term, it might be that the same event will be sent will appear in the dashboards in two different names, but in the long run, it will be just the new names, and it should be okay. So analytics event names alignment is also something that we're taking care of. And
I have something to say.
Yeah, please.
Maybe we can send both analytics names. Like if you like to change it, maybe for the short term, you can send twice the event in some cases and avoid the problem of the changing of the names.
Doesn't that mean that the event will change, will be sent more than once?
Yes, with different names for the short term until everything is going to be aligned and everybody going to be fixed. And then
mix up the counting, won't it? If the same event happened once, but you send it twice? I'm not sure what you mean then.
I mean, for example, if you like to change event from A to B.
Yes.
So if you just stop sending A, yes, it's going to create a problem. So for the short term, maybe for our customer, expect to receive A, and so you're going to change it to B. So for the short term, send two events, A and B, and then at some point you understand nobody check A, then remove it.
What's the point?
But what's in point in time you can stop sending A? It's going to be the same.
Maybe we can think later.
Okay, we can. Anyway, there are kind of misalignments between iOS and Android, and that had to be addressed anyway. So we can add you also to the pull request. You can see what we're working on, but we can take it offline. Shouldn't be a problem. One more thing that I kind of encountered by accident, and probably most of you guys know it, but it's still worth mentioning. You know that when the app starts, there is a request to Zap to get all the plugin configurations, right? All the data that plugin holds. And although this request is done via HTTPS and it's kind of secure, it is very easy to hack it so that you can actually see what is being sent in the plugin configuration, which means that if we're sending sensitive information in the plugin configuration, and this is really dependent on how the plugin manifest is written, then it is exposed to a possible man-in-the-middle attack where somebody can read what's being sent there. And it's very easy to hack it so that you can read it in clear text, the entire JSON. So just wanted to point out that if a plugin that you're writing consists of sensitive data that is required for it to work, but it's necessary in compile time and not necessarily in runtime, then it might be worth to check if the plugin configuration file contains plugin manifest, yeah, consists of this information. Maybe remove it from there if it's not necessary, because you don't want to compromise sensitive data in something that is readable. Okay.
Username, password, and
Oh, yeah.
repository.
Repository credentials, secret keys, whatever plugin that deals with authentication or maybe needs to get access to external resources, external. I can give you an example. Some things that we need to change in our plugins, but I'm saying it just to everybody that it's worth checking that we're not sending sensitive information.
You mean that the reason is because it's on the raw files in the APK app that is of the app, or exactly? Sorry, I didn't get the part. Why is it like an issue?
Because somebody can run our app on a device and track the traffic via Charles, for example, and can simply get all the information that they need about the plugin, including the information that we don't necessarily want to expose.
Guy, they can't do that because the parameters, the payload is encrypted via HTTPS, so you can't see that with this app.
It's not encrypted via HTTPS. I actually did it very easily with.
It's not encrypted in HTTPS.
It's family 4, I think.
Is this what, didn't you say that it was using over over HTTPS?
It is sent over HTTPS.
But the response
Then you can't read it.
It hasn't been started yet,
the
right?
URL is public and the response is completely raw.
The response is raw data, and you can very easily.
Okay.
From the browser.
Okay.
Yeah. So just as a heads up, if you're trying to hide sensitive information in the plugin infrastructure, make sure to really hide it and maybe encrypt it. I don't know. It's worth to understand how this should be done. It's something that we're starting to look at anyway, internally here. That's it for us.
I can go next.
Yes, please.
To follow on your analytics update, I am trying to align Android TV with Apple TV in terms of analytics, but an issue was brought up by Laura and Juanjo that in the Google Analytics dashboard, you get a section that shows platform. So it'll be iOS and Android. And then there'll be something that I believe it says not set or not available. And then that's like everything else. And I'm assuming that's Apple TV. I don't know, somebody like maybe a lad that has worked on these analytics plugins, do you know if there's any way we could set a platform while sending our events? Because we're trying to decide how we could separate the Android TV events from the rest of the Android events, since it's basically just Android. It's not a separate operating system like iOS and tvOS are. Unless, the only thing I could think of is just putting some type of prefix to all the events, like Android TV, click something. But I don't know. If anybody has any suggestions with that, I would love to hear them. So that's one thing I've been working on, just fixing all the Android TV issues besides that. Everything should be merged and working now for the React Native extra dependencies that some plugins may require. So if you are using the React Native plugin and you do need some native dependencies, I know sometimes they are project level dependencies. So now when you run SAPifest init, after you add an NPM dependency, it will ask you, does this have a native component? If you say yes, then it asks you, is it a project level? If you say yes, then it makes you fill out the required information, which is the project name and the project path. And yeah, that should work out. I'm also working with Gil because we had a requirement to launch a React Native plugin full screen, hiding the top bar, and then we need a way to close it. And I'm trying to leverage the React Native bridge to use a stop command that's already written. I'm just trying to piggyback off a command that already exists. But we're trying to find a way to have the React Native bridge communicate with the commands bridge and, without changing too much. But currently, the React Native bridge sends a context that holds an activity inside, but the context itself is a React context, which the bridge commands, which live in our SDK, have no reference to because React Native is not part of our SDK. So anyway, that's something I'm working on with Gil. And in the future, I was talking to Ron, back to the Android TV thing. It really might make a lot of sense to pull the Android TV out into its own module, because currently it doesn't make sense how we can release it. It's being treated as a different platform in SAP, but it really isn't a separate platform. It's just a flavor in our Android code. So it's running off the same SDK, the same tags, and it's very difficult to separate the two things. But I think the code can be extracted into its own module. So maybe that's something that I will work on next. And then we truly will have a separate platform and it'll have its own release cycles. And yeah, that's it for me.
All right.
Okay, just a second, Javier. 2 things, 2 points. First of all, regarding the filter out all the event, and you would just want to keep the TV event. I recommend to sync with Guy and sync how to do it, because this is what they almost doing now, the blacklist. So what you like to do is like to create a set of events in the server. So like saving set of events, and by doing that, you have set of event of you save it in the server, and then you can use it across all the TV event. Guy, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I asked Ruben 3 times to close the door, but he didn't get it. Never mind.
All right. Regarding the new platform, Javier, I'm afraid that if you create a new SDK for the TV, it will not update with the regular stuff that we added. We added all the time to our SDKs. So I think it could create like a problem. Maybe you should think about it again.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I plan to do right away. So I'll definitely involve everyone. And again, it's not something that I plan to do today, So it's just talking to Ron, and I can include you if you want. Anybody that works on Android TV or plans to work on Android TV, to see if there's a way we can solve the problem of basically how do you release a version for the Android TV platform when it is essentially just Android, or we can remove it. Those are the 2 options. We can remove the platform and understand that, and then treat it like a device, like, like this app is only for tablet. Well, this app is only for TV. Like treat it as one of the device paradigms and not as an actual platform.
Javi, one question: how much code do we share between Android TV and Android and the normal mobile tablet? Apart from the obvious SDK part, I'm talking the generic part.
Exactly. That's why after talking to Ron and inspecting the files, it does not look like we share that much. It's sitting in our generic, but it does not use other things from the generic. Not a lot that I could tell. So
Yes.
it really is only utilizing the SDK. So it shouldn't be a problem to remove it.
I have one suggestion, if I may. There's a very simple solution to do it, actually. I've attached to the chat a piece of code. Basically, I'm using this code. This code can be used in a module in order to understand what is the flavor that is running on app level. Okay, so basically we can create a method in the SDK asking if is Android TV, okay, which will just, instead of debug here, sorry, this one is checking is debug. So instead of debug, you will check for TV flavor or whatever the name is.
I totally suggest not doing that at all, because then we're going to have a big mess of different platforms with different TVs. I experienced this with especially with the smart TVs, where you have all these ifs everywhere. What we should try to do is isolate the code for the Android TV, and we should never have these ifs anywhere.
But I haven't done. Now, instead of prefixing event names, which is I think, very bad decision because it will create more complexity if we want to filter and add more functionality to analytics events. So instead of prefixing, we can easily attach extra parameter to the parameter list saying TV true for Android TV apps. Then the clients can filter Android TV apps and differentiate between Android TV and not.
It's not easy as you think in the Google Analytics side. If you like to separate via only parameter, but guys, you working on the blacklist. Take the blacklist one step above, receive from the server the blacklist that's not related to TV, and that's it.
So wait, we're talking about separate...
Just a second. If you don't understand, Reuven, don't laugh.
No, I do not understand. I didn't laugh.
You didn't understand. So say I didn't understand. Okay, no problem. Right now, we're receiving from the server, just a second, Reuven. Right now, we're receiving from the server blacklist, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what we need to do, create blacklist, all the event that's not related to TV. Just a set of that. Put it in the server, and every time that you like to create an application for TV, take this set. That's it.
But I think Javier was trying to solve a problem that is not even necessarily related to analytics.
Well, look, I mentioned two things. One is what we're doing in SAP for separating what is Android TV and what is Android, just like iOS and Apple TV or tvOS or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one issue. The analytic thing is completely separate, and the problem is Google Analytics, the platform itself, because it's very strict. I've had this problem in other companies as well, and what we had to do is filter by devices. There's only like 6 or 7 Android TVs, so it's very easy to find like, okay, let me filter by these device types, but it's very annoying. And I just wanted to know if anybody knew of a way in their dashboard. They have a platform section, which I think they auto-generate, so I don't even think we control that. And if we can't control that, that's fine. I do not want to complicate it more because, what we have, they're happy with. That was just a question they posed, like, hey, I don't like this unknown platform. And that's a problem with Google Analytics, I guess, that they don't understand what tvOS is. But for Android, they count it as Android. Android TV and Android is just all bundled into Android. So when you want to know just Android TV analytics, you would have to filter by device, I guess.
But as far as I understand, the future of Google Analytics is actually Firebase Analytics. So it
Yeah.
might be that the new platform, I don't know for sure.
But I'm quite sure that similar thing is occurring on Flurry.
Not Flurry?
What the problem with Flurry, please?
So I don't think you can actually easy filter by parameter, but I might be wrong. But as far as I remember, it's not an easy thing.
Yeah. Do you like to filter out event?
It's not filtering out. He's talking about the dashboard where he wants to see data that is only relevant for tvOS. Or not.
No.
It's not sending or not sending events. Let's say all the events are sent, but I just want to see only the events that were sent for TV.
If you like to see only the event that related to the TV, why you want to send all the other events?
No, I'm not sending any of the other events. They are just accumulated all in the same dashboard. It's the same, the customer's using one analytics dashboard, and the Android and the iOS and the tvOS and all this stuff is coming into the same dashboard. Now, I don't know. Maybe the solution would be, make a whole nother account. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think there is a purpose of having that combined, so they can combine all the data, but they also want to separate the platforms from each other. I think this might be purpose of this analytics.
In my opinion, we should append this parameter the way I said. Okay, it is super easy. For the track event method, you just add an extra parameter. It is done in one place. You don't need to run it in every plugin because basically the analytics manager is the one passing the parameters. So we will decorate, add extra parameter, TV, yes, no, or platform, TV or mobile, whatever. Okay. And then analytics provider that do support filtering by the parameters will use it, will be able to run one dashboard for both platforms and filter by it. Analytics that doesn't, like Flurry, will need, in order to know which platform, they will need to create a different account. Otherwise, how can they filter which one is which device if they cannot query parameters? I mean, if they can't filter by it.
Javier.
And this
I agree, Ruben. I actually think that's a more sensible approach.
Now, if you don't rename the events, so all the extra features that you put on top of analytics, for example, filtering lists or whatever, you will not need to create two different solutions for you. You will not need to duplicate all the events base, basically. You will have only one, an extra parameter that will be used or not used by specific providers.
Exactly, and you can combine them together or not.
Yeah, so you basically earn for free all the features of the mobile for a TV as well. The question is whether this solution is good enough. I mean, I'm not familiar with Flurry, but I don't see any reason to have only one account for mobile and TV if I cannot filter by platform, by parameter. So I don't know. Again, maybe the question should be asked, maybe this solution should be approved by someone who knows the needs of the clients, for example, Yoni Austin or whatever.
One last proposal I have, we create a feature that a custom dimension. You heard about that?
Yeah, but it's on Google Analytics, no?
Yeah, this is only for Google Analytics, and they have the problem in Google Analytics.
Yeah, but we want to do something generic because it makes sense to send platform for all the analytic providers, in my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion also. But for Javier, in the chat, I post a link for the custom dimension feature that we create. Please read about it. It may help you. I think Antanas knows the area well.
No.
I will check it out.
I do actually.
Yes, yeah.
I do know Google Analytics.
And you know the custom dimension product?
Yeah, but Merav used the custom dimension.
Yeah, I know custom dimension, but not the product.
Merav used the product.
Okay.
So, yeah.
She's here?
Right. Javier, that's it?
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I will take a look at everything, and I'll let you guys know. I'm gonna talk to my team and see what, out of all these solutions, what they think would be best for them. And I'll get back to you guys. But thank you.
All right, thank you. Just to wrap up, Javier is now discussing something that becomes more and more relevant, which is the tvOS platforms. There's a growing interest in our regions, and I'm sure that in other regions as well, in development for TV, which was kind of going downwards when we thought that mobile was winning, but it appears that the trend is kind of changing. It's going to be more and more relevant. So I guess these kind of questions will come up more and more as time.
By the way, it might be also, for example, if a client has app in the Google Play, but also on the Amazon store. So we might need a platform Amazon one day. I don't know, whatever. So platform parameter is kind of useful.
It is useful, but I guess it's going to be more rare. The separation, the need for separation between mobile and TV, I guess it's something that we'll see more and more demand for as the demand for more TV platform grows. Okay, cool. Who's next? We have approximately 20 minutes, and then we have the company meeting.
Why you talk about the Amazon, Reuven?
Because I have in my own app, I have a version in Amazon store. That's it.
All right. Because I'm start to working on the Amazon. Our application integrate with Amazon. This is something that I'm start to work on. I also, and the other, it's like small UI bugs, so I don't have nothing really to update.
Okay.
I have something, one more thing to follow up with the analytics alignment. I'm trying to align the in-and-player analytics with the iOS, and since it's worked different in iOS, in iOS the in-and-player is the same like the full screen player, is the same instance, and the analytics, it's the same as the full screen, which means that you cannot know if the video is playing in the inland player or in the full screen. And in Android, it's work different. So currently we don't have the analytics at all. So when trying to align, it's make no sense, because if currently it's work when you start playing in the inland player and then move to full screen player, it's a new instance player created, and then all the analytics sent again. And then when you return back to the inland player, so it's there was a huge mess with the analytics. So I guess the solution might be to create a new parameter and do the alignment also in the iOS platform. And for example, to add a parameter that it's playing in inline and not in the full screen.
You're talking about events that are sent from the player while the video is playing? What kind of?
There is one event, for example, that initialize and, for example, start the video buffering, seek to all kind of events that related to the video and also to the player. And and when you do it when you do it in the inline player, it's weird because the data will not make any sense.
Okay.
So you thought about adding a parameter to differentiate between the state, the inline player, and then the
yeah.
But you won't just okay.
But we also need to do it in iOS, so it will be aligned. Like
the iOS is the same player, right? It's the inline player and the large player is the same player, so you cannot.
Yeah. So, for example, if you start playing a video, it will send an event that you start playing a video with the playable item and everything, and then when you will move to full screen view, it will the same. It's not created a new event like, and in Android you will need to do something different because it's not the same thing. So
does that not having anything to do with the changing not creating new activity whenever you changing the from portrait to landscape?
Currently, this is how it works. I mean, it's creating a new activity, player activity, and it's two different implementation of players. And anyway, so guess what? I agree that it could be like implemented differently, but that was over there.
You need to be more quiet. Thanks.
Okay.
It's it's a good question. It's a question basically that pops up every once in a while in Applicaster. The problem is that both platforms have a different UI experience in terms of inline player being auto-resizing or whatever. In those cases, in my opinion, I mean, I understand the need of the product to align analytics, but come on, this technical solution is different. So I don't know. It's like on iOS you can have X button because you don't have native X, but on Android you have back button. So when the X button is pressed, there is analytic. But on iOS, when the back button is pressed, there is no analytic. I mean, it's something like that. It's a different UI experience, different platform. I don't know if.
But this is not the issue. The issue is, okay, so ignore the alignment thing. The issue is.
I'm talking about the auto-resizing. Okay, that the iOS doesn't send another event, the Android does send another event.
No, it's not another event. You can, for example, you start to play a video in the inline player, okay? Currently, I added a few analytics, but for example, so you send the event of initialize the video or start playing and etc. etc. And then when you move to full screen, it's create the all. So you need to ignore. So what?
The problem is that they would be sent again.
Exactly, it was sent again for the same video, but it's not the same.
Like the two separate sessions of watching the video.
Exactly.
In iOS, it's kind of a continuous flow where the user is moving from inline to full screen with the same player.
Hani, have you seen the architecture components from the Google conference? Yeah, I'm happy to send you a link. They simplify this this thing related to the full screen and landscape and the portrait view and the events which are coming over to the from the activity. So it might be useful for you.
Mm-hmm. It's a matter of like it's a decision that we need to take, I guess, if we want to, for example, to change how the inline player and the full screen player currently works. If we want to like. I don't know.
Guys and girls, I think that this is not the right meeting to discuss analytics. Like we are all developers and we are talking about the subject. That's not our main area of expertise. So let's discuss it on another meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's not the analytics. It's basically how we treat the difference between iOS and Android. But yeah, you're right. We're kind of deep diving into it. Okay.
Maybe I'll say a word about the scripts repository. So I wrote in the channel yesterday that I've created a new repository on GitHub, script tools or whatever. I know Atanas likes to write scripts. So I guess Atanas will be one of the major contributors to this repository. Basically, yeah.
Basically, are you gonna use Make again?
I'm gonna use Make of the 21st century. Like that's something that nobody knows about.
Atanas, can you write the ones for the coffee machine so we order the coffee? There's a bash script for that.
Unfortunately, the coffee machine won't be fixed by a script. It's just not gonna work.
Anyway, so this repository can be used for you to upload or just use different tools that saves you time while you're working. I don't know, some of you are scripting, some of you less. I know Atanas have a few scripts that might be not relevant since the latest Android Studio, but once he had a lot of scripts to build the environment easier, faster. But anyway, yeah, so this is for you. First script was written by me. It can be kind of a command line tool like Zappyfest, same style. It lets you upload to our Applicaster bin tray to upload AARs. Sometimes you have customers or third parties that gives you AAR and doesn't give you a Maven repository. They don't have. So in these cases, plugins, for example, cannot, they don't have a way to send the AAR to the app level, and AARs, local AARs, project AARs must be defined in the app level. So in this case, what we do is usually we upload the AAR to Applicaster's bin tray and use it as usual as any other Maven repository. So yeah, so it's a pretty much rare case. I know we have a proxy that are uploaded at bin tray, which is the previous push provider that we were using, and another one for our team. So if you have any other of yours, you're welcome to use it. That's it for me.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. Does anybody want to share?
I think it's me and Anna that are left, so maybe we can share. My update is really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's two features in the SDK. One of them is using URL scheme to start to launch the settings screen. I should credit Ruben and Gil for helping me with that. And the other one that I'm currently working on is to use a cell with an image from a more screen. Yeah, so like I can show how.
Atanas, what is the use case of open settings from URL scheme?
The use case is the one that Alisa told me. Like that's the use case. Like she told me we
Which
need
one?
to.
Okay, I'll explain. You have on the navigation bar, you have a button. Okay, you press it, and then you have a generic screen being opened. Basically, they call it demo screen. Demo screen has a list of 3, 4 items, whatever, and one of them is settings. I mean, instead of like putting settings in the navbar itself, they wanted the settings to be included in a generic screen.
Yeah, to be launched from another.
Okay, now the generic scheme does not know to handle URL scheme for settings because there wasn't, basically. The only access point to settings that we currently have was menu_settings, which is only, it is only handled in the navigation bar and in the side menu. So basically, Atanas created something similar to Present TPG that we did. Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah. So in other words, you can create like a web page and link to the settings page in the app. Like I don't know why you would want to do that. You can do it if you want.
Okay.
Oh, actually, you can't do it on Android because there's a bug and this doesn't work. So schemes aren't implemented like proper schemes. So.
No, you can.
So
you can do it. It is being handled like a fake scheme, but it is being handled by the same object. Same instance is handling it.
Okay, I didn't test it, but I know that there was something.
It's the same if you come up, if it's internal URL scheme, it will work. It won't work if you come from. It won't work if you come from external URL scheme. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah, so if you want to do that, you can do it, but like you can also use the URL scheme to open the settings from anywhere in your app or plugins, if this would be helpful. There's a glitch, like as with any URL scheme that we're using on Android, like you would be seeing the loading screen. So this is one thing.
Yeah, real URL scheme.
Yeah.
It's not a glitch. This is how URL schemes are implemented on Android in our SDK.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have smooth navigation, like you must consider that there will be the loading screen. It's, yeah, we can live with it, I guess. So that's it. Anna?
Hey, so basically this week I was mostly working on iOS, on Android, and the first thing I want to ask, do you know, guys, there is a hard-coded values whenever we are showing 3 rows in a grid or something, no, 6 rows in a grid, 3 rows in a list on the iPad. I wanted to extend it, so basically it's related to family. If that's okay, I will change this hard code. Apart from that, I was working a bit on investigating the data binding and the concept of triggers and actions. So basically the idea was that we have a trigger which might be on load, on video start, on video stop, on, I don't know, on click or whatever. The trigger might be user or the
sorry, I'm going to have to interfere. They're going to cut us off because they're going to use Zoom session for the company meeting. Let's pick it up next week, if that's okay?
Yeah, so in general, I wanted to do the presentation about the data binding, but I don't have that ready yet. So I think if there will be enough time after next week Javier's presentation, I could maybe show you my investigations and things which I involved. So yeah, that's it from me.
Great, thank you. All right, guys, thank you very much. I'll post it afterwards to YouTube for whoever